Hi there, I'm Carrie Daniels. I'm Director of Archives and Special Collections here at the University of Louisville, and I'd like to welcome you to this information session. We'll be talking about two positions, the archivist for the Barry Bingham Jr. Courier Journal Photograph Collection, and a special collections librarian who will also be curator of the Edgar Rice Burroughs collections here at U of L. We'll be talking about our city, the university, archives and special collections, and of course the positions themselves. But first, a little housekeeping. We'll answer questions at the end of our presentation, but please feel free to enter your questions in the Q&A anytime along the way. Teams has a built-in 10 to 20 second delay between the time when you submit your question and when we actually see it. So it will actually be really helpful to have questions in the pipeline for when we get to the end, so don't hold back. We will also try to save some time at the end for questions that are in the pipeline to actually catch up with us. We'll try not to cut any questions off. Also related to Q&A, when you drop a question in the Q&A, teams will give you the opportunity to identify yourself, but we're absolutely fine with you remaining anonymous. We respect your confidentiality and privacy. Anonymous is fine with us. And on that note, also, just a reminder that this session is being recorded, but participant cameras and mics are muted. So with our housekeeping done, let's get started. I'd like to introduce you to Hannah Pryor, our archivist for University Records.
Hi. While I won't be working directly with either of the positions we're discussing today, I'm new to the University of Louisville. I was in your place a year ago when I was considering applying to a position here with Archives and Special Collections. There are links to more information about Louisville, the university, and our benefits in the job ad, and I encourage you to explore these on your own. But I'd like to share some things that helped me make my decision to move here. Louisville, the largest city in Kentucky, is the home of the Muhammad Ali Center, the Kentucky Derby, the Louisville Slugger Museum, and the Muhammad Ali International Airport. Some of my favorite things so far have been hiking at Red River Gorge, trying all the restaurants, and attending the St. James Court Art Show. We also have a great music festival scene here. While Louisville offers a lot of amenities inside its city limits, it's within driving distance of cities like Nashville, Cincinnati, Indianapolis, and Columbus. The cost of living in Louisville is more affordable than in many other parts of the U.S. For example, it's much easier to own a home here than elsewhere. Our rental market has tightened up recently, but if you're currently living in a major metropolitan area, you may be amazed at how much space you can rent for less than you might pay elsewhere. Speaking more specifically about the university, we have 23,000 undergraduate and graduate students. The university is a Carnegie Research One institution, meaning we have very high research activity, and we're a Carnegie Community Engaged institution. We're actually one of only 79 U.S. institutions that hold both designations. Our libraries have funds administered through a faculty committee that support going to conferences and enrolling in other professional development opportunities. You can join employee resource groups to network and find community like the Black Faculty and Staff Association, the LGBTQ+ Faculty and Staff Association, Young and Emerging Professionals, and the Parenting Network, and more. The university also offers a good benefits package. You can check out the link in the ad, including tuition remission for employees and their dependents, and generous leave time. There's a lot more I could share, but I'll pass things back off to Carrie, who's going to tell you about the Archives and Special Collections Library.
Thanks, Hannah. So Archives and Special Collections was established in 2013 as a merger of Rare Books, Photo Archives, Digital Initiatives, and the University Archives and Record Center, which is more commonly known as UARC. I should also elaborate here. UARC is the institutional archives for the university and runs the records management program, as you might have guessed. But it's also a collecting repository, so holds personal papers and organizational records, et cetera, from around the community. It's also home to the Oral History Center. Digital Initiatives runs our digital collection site, which is where we provide access to digitized and born digital primary source materials, and also runs University of Louisville's institutional repository, The Thinker. We are one of 6 libraries in the University of Louisville library system. There are 16 of us, faculty and staff, including the 2 positions that we're talking about today. So these 2 positions are situated in rare books and photo archives, and I'll tell you a little bit more about those 2 areas in particular, but I'd also add that if you want to learn more about our collections in general, our website is chock full of information. Rare Books holds approximately 70,000 volumes, including the Bullitt collection of rare science and math texts, the Williams-Nichols collection, which documents LGBTQ+ communities from around this region, and of course the McWhorter collection of Edgar Rice Burroughs material, which you will hear more about in just a moment. Photographic Archives holds more than 5 million images. Collecting strengths in photo archives include documentation of our local area through commercial studio collections, as well as through newspaper photography collections, including the Courier Journal, or the CJ as it's known, but also the Louisville Defender, a local Black-owned newspaper. We also have significant strengths in documentary photography, including Farm Security Administration Photo Project Director Royce Stryker's papers and photographs, and material from some of his subsequent projects, most notably Standard Oil, New Jersey. We also have a wonderful fine print collection. So I want to add here, while we have materials of international significance, documenting our community is a key part of our mission across the board. U of L started as a municipal institution, and we carry that tradition forward even as the university attracts students from much further afield. It's really part of our DNA. So that's what we do and what we have, but just as important, I think, is our culture, who we are. So while we often work independently, I mean, we all have our own jobs, we are a highly collaborative group. We do not have strict silos. This is sort of baked into the special collections librarian position. That person will be working with rare books collections, but also with collections from other areas within ASK. The folks in both of these positions will be part of our processing group, which meets monthly to talk about all things processing. That could be processing priorities, could be reparative description, it could be processing adjacent things like deaccessioning policies. We also just talk through issues that we run into while we're working on our own projects, and we share updates on our progress, and we share treasures that we found as well. We frequently refer to our hive mind. Most of us work some amount of time on the reference desk, and it's not unusual for one of us to throw a question out to the whole group and say, I got this question and I thought of these resources, but is there anything else I can give this person that might help them answer their question? So we're used to collaborative problem solving. We write together, we encourage and support each other, we believe in excellence and we work hard, but we also believe in work-life balance. We also make group excursions together to local museums, repositories, and other sites of interest. These are retreats, they're professional development. It is great to get out of the office together, and there is often an element of fun involved, but it's also, sometimes fun isn't the word that I would use to describe it. Sometimes we're processing some really difficult history. But it's good for us to do that processing together, and it's important for us, given our community mission, to understand our community, to know our history. So we do that work together. So that's a little bit about us in general. Now I'm going to turn it over to our rare books curator, Delinda Bowie, who can tell you more about the special collections librarian position.
Hi. I'm Delinda, the Rare Books Curator, and I'll work with the Special Collections Librarian, Curator of the Edgar Rice Burroughs Collection. This mouthful of a position title stems from funding sources. Part of the funding comes from an endowment established by the late George McWhorter, who developed and curated the Burroughs Collection for decades. This is an entry-level, tenure-track position and it will have some opportunities for hybrid work. The larger part of this position will involve engaging with ASK's holdings in rare books, literary and historical manuscripts, or posters, but it will also involve working collaboratively on other ASK collections. As Carrie already has indicated, we work very collaboratively on our reference desk, when we're teaching, and in collection cataloging and archival arrangement and description. Particularly in reference and in teaching, we work with collections across ASK and across all disciplines. This position will also involve work with donors, special programs, and exhibitions. So a bit about the rare book collection. In addition to the really exemplary collections Carrie mentioned, we hold comprehensive book collections of J.D. Salinger, Irish literary Renaissance authors, 19th century travel and exploration narratives, including some exceptionally rare volumes documenting Egypt. We have books on the English or of the English Renaissance and pulp magazines. We have an uncatalogued book backlog requiring bibliographic searching and discernment. For some tasks, we work with student assistants, both graduate and undergraduate. We also work with interns and community volunteers. Especially when students come to us with ideas for internships, we make every effort to say yes. The Burroughs collection is believed to be the largest institutional collection of Edgar Rice Burroughs worldwide, holding thousands of books and many other formats. Because Professor McWhorter knew and loved each item, he also arranged them a little bit idiosyncratically, more of a personal collection than a library or archival collection. That means the tasks associated with this position will be to identify, rehouse, arrange, and describe the contents of the collection to make it discoverable to researchers, as well as members of the Burroughs fan and collectors communities. Another part of this position will be making the collection relevant, not just to fans, but to the academic community who can engage with the collection in terms of colonial and post-colonial studies, gender roles, ecology, and animal studies. We have begun that work with our academic departments of humanities and Pan-African studies, but we're counting on the person in this position to expand that interface for our faculty, students, and other researchers. You will hear again and again that the best part of our work is the strong relationships within ASK and the colleagues in the libraries and across campus. We are a great place to work, and Louisville is a vibrant community. So now I will turn it over to Elizabeth Riley, our photo curator, who is both great and vibrant.
Thank you, Delinda. I am Elizabeth Riley, curator of the Photographic Archives. My friends and colleagues call me Riley, so you may hear them refer to me like that. But I am really excited to tell you all about this position and excited that we're even seeking an archivist to work exclusively on the Barry Bingham Jr. Courier Journal photograph collection, which we acquired just last year. The Photo Archives has been trying to get this really significant local newspaper photo collection for decades, and it's now named in honor of Barry Bingham Jr., who was the owner and editor of the paper from 1971 to 1986, who expanded and diversified the photography department that went on to win 2 Pulitzer Prizes during his tenure. This is a large-scale photograph collection that we estimate contains around 3 million images, including prints, sheet negatives, 35mm negatives, glass plate negatives, slides, and probably more, and has likely doubled the size of the Photographic Archives holdings. The CJ Archivist will be focused on and responsible for this collection, with the priority being to head up the physical processing of the entire collection, which we anticipate will take a few years. The CJ Archivist will create a processing plan in collaboration with myself and Carrie Daniels, director of ASK, and then implement that plan. They will hire, train, and supervise the student staff, up to 6 student workers per semester for the first couple of years, as well as work with select volunteers like former Courier Journal photographers who have invaluable knowledge of this collection. They will be responsible for the creation and maintenance of a database and compile a finding aid and archive space. They will oversee the movement of collection materials from storage locations to temporary workspaces and then to final storage sites. They will also supervise the rehousing of collection materials, mostly into archival boxes, and that's because cold storage for this collection is being built right now. So most of the materials will not need to be rehoused into new first layer enclosures, thereby allowing us to maintain the original identifying information with the materials. During processing, this archivist will also respond to regular requests from current Courier Journal newspaper staff for images from the archive collection. And the CJ Archivist will communicate with our donors and provide regular progress updates. The collection is primarily divided into prints and negatives and organized by year and then photographer and date. But there's also a lot of material that still needs to be refiled back into its proper place before the collection is put into its final archival boxes. After the processing is complete and the collection's open to the broader public, the CJ Archivist will also respond to researcher requests. They will develop and coordinate programming around the collection as well, and this will likely involve exhibitions, lectures, and possibly community projects that directly use or connect to photographs in the collection. The CJ Archivist will then plan and execute a digitization project. And we anticipate this to happen first of the prints in the collection, so the photographs that were published in the newspaper. We do have a few thousand previously digitized files of highlight photographs that we intend to make available on our digital collections within the year, but it's only after the physical processing of the complete collection is done that will work to make a more complete collection of images available online. I just want to make clear that this is a faculty position that is permanent. We use the word term to refer to the fact that it is not tenure track, but you'll learn a little bit more about that next. Also, it's a collection-based position, so initially it will require work to be on site. There will be more of an opportunity to do some work from home, off-site work after the physical processing is complete. But I'm going to turn it over now to Melissa Lanning, our Associate Dean of Libraries, to tell you a little bit more about the difference between term and tenure track faculty. Thanks.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. We're really glad that so many of you were able to join us today. As Riley said, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what it means to be a faculty librarian at U of L, and if you have any questions about it, by all means, add them to the chat so that we can answer them, because it's a big topic and obviously we only have a short amount of time, so we really want to answer the questions that you might have about it. But since it's it's not always a familiar concept for librarians, it wasn't to me when I first came here quite a long time ago. We really do want to explore that a little bit today. So what does it mean to be a faculty librarian? Well, on an individual basis, it means that we all of us, have annual work plans that outline our goals and responsibilities for the year in not only job duties as described in these two job descriptions, but also in terms of research and service. In another broader sense, it also means that we collaborate with faculty from across the institution to support the teaching and research missions of the university. And we also participate in and often lead campus governance organizations such as the Faculty Senate, Commission on the Status of Women, Black Faculty Staff Association, and many more. Our librarians and archivists are quite active in the university and regional community. There are also opportunities to participate in specific library governance bodies, such as our personnel committee, which is the peer review group that manages our annual and promotion review process. So within that broad framework, we've kind of hinted at this already. There are sort of two different categories, tenure track and term. So I'm going to talk a little bit in more depth about those. The special collections librarian position is tenure track, and the person in this position will be required to achieve proficiency in not only their job duties, but also in research and service before the tenure review begins after 5 years in the position. Applying for this position. So if you're applying for this position, keep that in mind because it is an obligation that you will have and something that you have to really enjoy doing in order to really be as successful as you probably want to be in the job. This could seem daunting, but I think that it's really important. If you don't remember anything else I say, please remember that we, the administration of the libraries and your colleagues are really genuinely committed to helping you succeed in that process. We do a lot of formal and informal mentoring. We have significant funding for professional development, lots of opportunities for collaboration. That's a theme that you've probably heard from everybody who's spoken so far, and it's really true. And then as well as feedback along the way, both in terms of annual reviews and other opportunities for feedback on your performance so that you will always know sort of what you need to be doing to be successful. So I guess, being on the tenure track is a journey, as they say, but there's a lot of support along the way. The Courier Journal position, on the other hand, is term, which in our case means not that it's not a permanent position, but that the research and service component are somewhat more optional for anyone in that position. We encourage our term faculty to be involved in those activities, research and service, and will provide promotional opportunities for those who want to engage in them. And we also provide the same opportunities for mentoring, travel funding, collaboration, et cetera, et cetera. So again, that part of it is exactly the same in terms of the support that we provide. I was looking at a blog or some social platform recently that was about hiring, and somebody asked about what it meant to be a tenure track full-time faculty member on a 12-month contract. So I want to talk a little bit about contracts. Both of these positions are 12-month contracts. That means that unlike some of our colleagues on the teaching faculty, we work all year round, although as someone else said, we do have very generous leave, but we don't have the summer off the way, again, some of our teaching colleagues do. I think that's probably all I'm going to say at this time, but I would certainly welcome questions in the chat or at any time. I am the person, if you apply for the position, who will reach out to you and respond and acknowledge that. So you'll automatically have my email if you apply, and I am always available to respond to questions. So thank you, and I am turning it back now to Carrie.
Okay, thank you all very much. As we move into Q&A, just a reminder about that 10 to 20 second lag. We will have a pause there at the end just to make sure we don't leave anything in the pipeline. But if we do not get to your question, please, please, please reach out to us by email. Our email addresses are all here on the screen, and we invite your questions in whatever format is easiest for you, Q&A or by email. Okay, so we do have a few questions in the pipeline. Thank you all very much for those. The first question could be for either Delinda or Riley. I'm not sure. It's for both of you, and I'm not sure which one of you will want to go first. But the question is, how does DEI work via reparative description, engagement with represented communities, et cetera, relate to the responsibilities of each position?
I'll go ahead and start with that. In our processing committee, we certainly address that and are very conscious of the reparative description work that needs to be done, particularly with the Edgar Rice Burroughs collection, but with other collections too. So I think it's something, I'm really glad that you brought this up because it does need to be top of mind in our work.
Yeah, and I can comment on this as well. This is work that we so far have been doing as a group. You know, Carrie did discuss that we work collaboratively often, and this is in particular one aspect of the archival profession that we have been working on collaboratively with committees and training sessions, attending webinars as a group, and like Delinda mentioned, in our processing committee, doing work to discuss this with priorities on certain collections and topics. So while there isn't anything specific yet in the Courier Journal collection archivist position regarding DEI work, it certainly will come up when the catalog record is being created, and also when our database of folder listing titles and subject listing titles will be created. So that will be ongoing work, and it can be discussed collaboratively with myself and with the processing group.
Thanks, Riley and Delinda. This next question is for Delinda. What are some faculty student research projects that have previously been done using the Edgar Rice Burroughs collection? So how has it already been put to use?
Well, so far it's been put to use primarily through classes. We have had other researchers, university researchers, come to do work. One of my favorites was from Trinity College Dublin, who was examining the actual science engaged in by Edgar Rice Burroughs. But that's one of the things that we hope that this position will do, is to help facilitate those sorts of research projects within our university. Because right now we are basically just bringing materials out and asking students to engage with them instead of doing formal research.
Yeah, I will add there that we did have a class last semester who had the option of, it was a historical methods class, of looking at one of 3 different collections, analyzing the finding aid, such as it was, and really interrogating the collection. Why did we have it? Why did it have in it what it had in it, etc. And the Burroughs collection was one of the options. And students really engaged with it pretty deeply. So I think there is a lot of potential there. Excuse me. Next question. Will it count against a candidate if they apply to both positions? Melissa, do you want to handle this one?
I would like to respond to this. Interestingly, I am probably during the screening process, these are 2 separate search committees for each of the positions. And during the screening process, I am actually the only person who knows that anybody has applied for more than one position. So it definitely does not affect the screening process. One committee won't say, oh, well, they applied for the other job. They don't know that. And I don't share that, quite honestly. I think that it's up to you to make the case about why you're qualified for each of the positions, and I would certainly encourage you, if that's the choice, the direction you want to go in, that you really tailor your application to the different positions, but it absolutely won't be held against you. Now, it could happen, and it actually has happened, that multiple committees have come up with deciding to interview the same person. And yes, at that point, they know that another committee has decided to interview the same person. But so I would say in general, no.
Thank you. Our next question. So this is for Delinda. When it comes to the research obligations for the Rare Books Librarian, does the research have to be directly related to ASK's collections? Actually, Melissa might want to weigh in on this one too.
As far as I'm concerned, it does not. although we would appreciate it if through the research that this person does, could help introduce our collections to the scholarly world. And so I would hope that our Ask Collections would be a part of that research, but not necessarily confined to it. Melissa?
Yes, I will add to that a little bit, and maybe take it in a little bit different direction. I think, we have other librarians in our system, and the medical librarians come to mind, actually, where a lot of their work is with faculty in the School of Medicine, nursing, public health, et cetera, and it is not about librarianship. Having said that, we really do also encourage them, as they're coming up for tenure, to think about how they can contribute to the literature of the archives world, or in their case, medical librarianship as well. So I think, we probably would appreciate a balance to some degree, but it's not required. And I think it just has to be appropriate for the job in the end. So I don't know. I think it's not necessary, but I think it would probably be helpful to have some work in that area.
Thank you. I'm not sure which position this would be more appropriate for, but I think it actually, or which one it's aimed at, but I think it would apply to either one. So for this position, is an MLIS absolutely required, or might a person with a doctorate also apply? There's a second question, which I think we'll take actually separately.
Congratulations on the PhD. That's impressive and important. I think that it's important also to bear in mind, though, that this is an entry-level position, probably with initial appointment at the rank of instructor or assistant professor. So that might be something to keep in mind in terms of the expectations of the applicant.
Riley, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I mean, I want to reiterate what Delinda just said, that, yeah, we are seeking somebody as either come in as an instructor or an assistant professor, so earlier in their career. And I'm not sure exactly how much, I mean, my position is mostly processing and project management, and something like a PhD in photography probably wouldn't help.
All right, thanks. Yeah, I would just add to what they've both said that we certainly do have people that come in with degrees other than master's in library science, usually with other accompanying experience that supplements their public history degree or PhD in history, or PhD in photography, what have you. So it doesn't, the MLIS isn't required, but again, these are both relatively entry-level positions.
Yeah, I forgot to mention.
Riley, do you want to add? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think it applies here to the answer to this question, is that I actually don't have an MLIS, and I am an associate professor here in the archives. I have a master's in photographic preservation and collections management, so it is very specific. And my experience, both my education and experience are directly related to the work that I do now, but it is not an MLIS. And I also want to mention that if you are interested in the Barry Bingham Jr. Courier Journal Photograph Collection archivist position, but you don't have a deep knowledge of photographic formats or too much experience working with photographic formats, I want to encourage you to apply anyway, because that expertise will come from me as the supervisor. So I will always be there to direct the archivist and assist with any questions they may have. But what we're really looking for is somebody with some real knowledge and experience processing and working through large projects, like large processing projects, like a 3 million image photo collection.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. Thank you. So the second question, it sounds as if there's already a working program in place offering fellowships for visiting scholars. Are you more interested in stimulating local engagement with collections or national/international? And again, I think this could be for either. I'm assuming it's pointed more toward the ERB position, Delinda, but it could also apply to you, Riley. So.
Well, first of all, I wish that we had funding for visiting fellowships. Instead, we work with our graduate programs within the university for those graduate assistantships. And most of our, in fact, all of our interns have been unpaid. They receive course credit, but no stipend. I hope that that's an answer to the question.
Yeah, and I can add regarding the Courier Journal collection, once the initial physical processing of the collection is complete, the programming will start, and we would absolutely like local engagement with this particular collection. Of course, national, international is always of interest, but this is a very local collection. This is Louisville's history in photographs. Yeah, and we want programming to engage community members, but also scholars with the material in the collection. So that will definitely be a part of the position.
Great, thank you. Now we have a question about start dates. Is the start date flexible? And I'm going to actually, this might be a question for Melissa, because you know so much more about how all of the hiring part works.
Sure, I'd be happy to take that one. We anticipate sort of June 1st, July 1st as the start date, but that is a part of for the person who gets the offer, that is a negotiable point. The dean makes offers, and so that would be a conversation that the dean would have with the person that we recommend. But, you know, I think there is some flexibility. Now, I'm saying that because I don't have any responsibilities for the collection. I'm sure that Riley or Delinda would say sooner is better. But yeah, so there is flexibility, but we need somebody.
Okay, Riley or Delinda, if either of you want to jump on, just.
Yeah, we're pretty much, you know, just it's the process. It just naturally, and all the searches I've been involved with takes a few months, and then of course the start date is negotiated with the applicant, the candidate, and the dean. But yeah, I absolutely agree that no later than July, probably, because we have donor expectations to get the process, donor and community expectations to get the processing of this collection started.
And of course, Rare Books would appreciate having a person as soon as possible, but a summer or June start date would actually be very good, probably, because in theory, things are a little quieter in the summer, and so there would be more time to just get accustomed to the collections and sort of get the person's feet under them.
Great, thanks, Delinda. Let's see, our next question, and this kind of follows on a question that was asked previously. Is there an expectation that an MLIS will eventually be attained if hired, even if an applicant has a PhD in history? And I think I can actually answer that and invite anybody else to jump in. If we hire somebody with a PhD, we don't expect them to pick up the MLS along the way. We look at your qualifications as you apply, and if you are qualified to be a member of our faculty, then that's usually where it is. So I don't know, Melissa, Riley, Delinda, any of you want to add anything to that? Okay, I'm getting head shakes. And I actually do not see any more questions. I'm hoping I didn't miss anything. Give just a few more seconds to make sure nothing is coming through the pipeline here, as I promised. And while we're waiting, I will just reiterate, if you do think of questions later that you didn't think of during the session, please feel free to follow up with us by email. Again, our emails are all listed here on the slide. This presentation will be available from our job opportunities page off of the University Library's main page, so you can access it later if you want to review any of it or find our email addresses again. We're also in the personnel directory for the library, so we're easy to find there as well. All right, I'm not seeing any more questions. So with that, I will thank you all for attending. I appreciate your interest in these positions, and we look forward to hearing from you in the future. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thanks. I just want to mention I added the link to the Archives and Special Collections website. And that's a good place to explore a little bit more about how we're structured, but also you can find more information about the Career Journal photo collection, about the Edgar Rice Burroughs collection, and you can search our catalog and our digital collection. So the link is there in the Q&A. Oh, it looks like we might have a question. Oh, we do. Oh, no, they're thank yous.
Somebody did ask if we could talk about the community in Louisville and what the student body is like.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I can talk a little bit about our student body. Hannah kind of shared the basics. There are about 23,000 students. We have 2 campuses, well, really 3, but 2 where there are actually courses given. The Belknap campus, which is arts and sciences, social work, education, music, engineering, and I'm sure I'm forgetting something, law, yep. And then we have a health sciences campus where the schools of medicine, dentistry, nursing, and public health are located. So we have graduate students, we have PhD students, master's students, we have undergraduate students, and then we have professional students who may be either graduate or undergraduate. There are undergraduate programs in several of our health sciences colleges. Our students, there was a time in our history when our students came primarily from Louisville and Jefferson County. Now they come from a broader spectrum of areas, although probably still largely within our region. I'm not sure what else to add to it.
Some stuff.
We have a fairly high percentage, and I'm not sure what that percentage is, and I wish I could just recall it immediately, of first generation students. It is Riley, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I can say, when I compare the student body here at Louisville to my alma mater, which was in California, I can say that sports and our sports teams are a big significance for a lot of our students and community in town, so it's very popular. We also have a thriving LGBTQ community on campus, as well as arts and music, especially with the music school. So I'd say it's a really varied population, which is really a breath of fresh air. And as for the community in Louisville, I moved here 12 years ago after living in large cities, and I found I really like living in Louisville. It's just the right size to be able to have a little room to stretch out, maybe have like a yard. Imagine having a yard. and not have to worry about parking when you go places. But I never get bored here. There's always a lot of things going on, a lot of things to do. I attend a lot of music events and art events in town, but there's really rich cultural sort of life in Louisville, as well as restaurants too. I had an amazing meal last night at a new restaurant. So, you know, I can't say enough good things about Louisville.
And I will add, well, you all can tell that I've been doing this a really long time, but over the years, I've noticed a couple of things. One, the increasing diversity of the community, which has been exciting, and also the quality of the students. We've got some really smart kids, and they're really, really engaged in the scholarly life. And another thing is that the teaching faculty is much more eager for collaboration with us, so that we can engage sometimes in the development of syllabi or on research and writing projects or exhibitions. This is a really exciting time to be at work here.
I hope that at least started to answer those questions. Those are pretty big questions, and we could probably spend a full hour just talking about our student body and about our community. So hopefully you got a taste, a little bit of an answer there. Let's see if we have any more questions. Nope, we just have thank yous after that. All right, so I think with that, I will once again thank everyone for attending. Appreciate your time, and as I said, hope to hear from you again. Have a wonderful weekend.